Welcome to On Texas Football. Time to talk about the portal in the University of Texas. What are the biggest needs? I think we can all say it starts with the offensive line, but what about after that? I think all three of us have different expectations and thoughts on that. But this is the state of the program brought to you by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. Thanks to Adam and his group, LowyLawFirm.com. Hey, Gerry Hamilton, Rod Babers joining me here. Let's start with the offensive line because we do think that is the number one position of need. Connor Stroh yesterday goes into the portal. He started 5 games for the Longhorns last year at left guard. He would have been a key depth piece for the Longhorns had he stayed. He wasn't going to probably become the starter. Texas has signaled that they are going to go very heavily into the portal. Now we also have another situation emerging with Trevor Goosby getting such high grades, first team all-conference in the SEC. Matt Miller put out his NFL draft prognostication, put him all the way up at 15. Otherwise, Texas was looking to potentially bring back its 2 starting tackles in Goosby and Baker. Now, if Goosby goes pro, and Connor Robertson doesn't return, it literally could be a remake of the offensive line for the second consecutive year. Okay, so I'm going to start with you, Gerry, and ask you, how do you even begin to start addressing the needs on the Texas offensive line?
Yeah, well, I think the guard spots are the big ones for me, depending on, and then it would go to center, depending on what a decision of Connor Robertson is, right? But I think the whole key with me with offensive line is it's what are you just going for scheme fits, or are you going for players and maybe changing your scheme in the run game?
Yeah,
because you can try to square peg round hole this and it won't work. So my question is, what is it going to be? Is it going to be are you recruiting for your current scheme in the run game? Or are you planning to make run game scheme changes? That may be telling in who they go after in the portal. Because Jay, just because a guy's in the portal, he started 30 games and it looks great, doesn't mean he's a good fit in your scheme if he's been in a totally different scheme and more of a downhill power run game. So that I think is going to be interesting is where they go in the portal on the offensive line. And could that be telling of some things they may be looking at in their run scheme next year?
Rod, I think they need to get 3 to 4 guys total. What are your thoughts on the offensive line? And I think this whole Goosby thing kind of throws a wrench into pre-made plans.
Yeah, the Goosby thing scares me because, you think you'd have a foundational piece to build around. And if Goosby leaves, you won't have that. And to Jerry's point, you're also at the mercy of what's available to you in the portal, in addition to thinking about the factors he brought up about scheme fit. And, also I would think ideally you'd want guys, when you start inside, guys you can cross-train to play multiple guard spots and guys that can play guard and center. Now, that's an ideal scenario. That's maybe just kind of wishful thinking. But I think that's also something they would try to covet too, consider you can manufacture some depth there and then also give yourself some flexibility on trying to get the best 5 out there, where one guy's like, oh, no, I played left guard. That's all I played. That's all I can play. So that's another thing also to consider. We know Kyle Flood likes to cross-train guys. So the Trevor Goosby thing scares me. Trevor Goosby, if he comes back, I think you're in a really good place, actually.
Yeah.
I do. I think if Trevor Goosby doesn't come back, then, like you said, you're looking at a full-on rebuild of the O-line without even a foundational piece to build around. That could be troubling. So ultimately for Texas, you're going to be at the mercy of what's available to you in the portal, and you have to be flexible on guys you're bringing in because you're not going to necessarily find the ideal fit, because you need 4 offensive linemen probably here. You're not going to find the ideal fit for all those guys, but you do to find the right fit, the compatibility, like Gerry said, with your scheme and with your run game and really kind of the offensive identity that you want to have next season.
I think it's also interesting. You mentioned 3 or 4, and that starts going into depth needs even on the offensive line. It's not even just about the starters, but, have guys produced enough in the under ranks Like we talk some, Jerry and I do, about the fact that they really like the Coleman brothers. You've heard Jackson Christian's name. Nick Brooks got some playing time early this year. That reduced as the year went on. They have what looks like a really good group of true freshmen, but what about that group before them that are sophomores, redshirt freshmen? They don't seem to have as much footing other than Brandon Baker, who emerged as a true, I guess he was a redshirt sophomore, a redshirt freshman, or true sophomore who emerged as a starter. So I think they're in a precarious position at offensive line. And it's not just because of the starters. I think they don't have depth that's ready to go either. And we're waiting. There are guys out there still that could make decisions to go in the portal, whether that's Daniel Cruz, Nate Kibble, you name it. There are other guys, Jaden Chapman, Andre Kojo. Hopefully Kojo comes back and is healthy. But it's a lot of ifs, right? And that's why the emphasis, I think, has to be on getting guys that can help you right away on the offensive line. That's why this is by far and away the most important position, because just the sheer volume of understanding of what they've got to do and where they could be. And then you add, I think it's easier typically to find interior players in the portal. Much harder to find tackles in the portal because if you got a good one there, you try to hang on to them, right? Yeah. I mean, Jerry, their ability to address this need dictate the success at some level in 2026? I mean, what happens if they get a B in this assignment and not an A? Like, you know what I mean? From a personnel department standpoint, if you look back a month from now and they get a B, is this so important they got to get an A or an A plus in the portal for a grade?
The only way I could grade that is I think we have to define what was Hayden Connor and Jake Majors at Texas. Because for 2 years, the talk was they weren't physical enough. But Texas went to 2 college national semifinals, and both those guys ended up on NFL rosters. So are we talking about players that level? Is that the B grade or is that the A grade? I can't grade it until we decide, like, what are those guys?
I personally think that would be an A grade if you find if 2 guys. Multi-year starters. I think that's an A grade. Yeah. It's rare. For example, Emmanuel Pregnon, the lineman that visited Texas last year and transferred to Oregon. He was a USC guy. He just was named an All-American.
Yeah.
Okay. As a transfer, first team by the Athletic. So those guys are rare. So that would be an A plus.
Yeah.
Multi-year starters, to Rod's point that he was making, I think that gives you an A as long as they are cohesive and they make sense, to your point, Jerry, within the scheme of the offense and what you're attempting to do. If they come up a player short at tackle and you lost Trevor Goosby, or they come up a player short on the interior and you lose an additional guy on the interior, different story, right?
And the reason I asked that is you still couldn't run the ball in Georgia with those guys, or when you needed to, right? So does anything change, or are we just changing players?
I want to say this: who did run the ball on Georgia?
Yeah, but you had to beat them.
Yeah, my point is, who did run the? We can talk about that. NFL teams don't run the ball well on every team they play.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're that good on defense, it's just a matter of fact. Rob, what do you think about the whole? What do they got to come out of here with on the offensive line from a grade perspective to really, truly make a push in 2026?
I think you need the proven commodities. I mean, you do need guys who have, proven themselves at the highest level, right? You need guys who've done it multiple years too, in my opinion. And like I said, those guys are going to be tough to find because you're not the only ones looking for them. And Texas needs multiple guys right, who fit that criteria. So I think for Texas, if you can get 3 starter caliber players and then get another depth piece on the O-line that you feel can rotate, or in case of, knock on wood, in case of injury, to me, that would be I don't know if it's an A because I got to see it in season before I give anything an A.
Yeah, that's
in
fair.
terms of talent acquisition, in terms of filling the needs that you have right now, and the O-line. I mean, this is the toughest test that this honestly this any general manager or the personnel department for Texas has had since they got here, in my opinion.
Oh wow, you think it's that hard?
I think it's going to be a challenge. I do, because you guys have told me O-line. You just don't see a lot of O-linemen in the portal. Period. You're seeing more, becoming more and more frequent, but you don't see a lot of good ones because teams, when they got good ones, they lock them down. Right? There's a reason for that. So that number one is going to be the challenge. Then I think you have it'd be different if you did one or two. You definitely need three, and we got to pray Goosby comes back. Goosby doesn't come back, or how does Andre Kojo work out? That also could be a saving grace for you too. Kojo comes back, close to what he was last year, what was expected last year. This is a guy who's expected to be in the rotation for you at tackle. He comes back. That could also help you. But I just think you need so many pieces in the portal right now for Texas. In terms of talent acquisition, you're going to have to get 3 caliber starters at least to make sure that, in that interior offensive line, to make sure that you at least start out on a kind of competent level. And then we can give them a grade on how they perform during the season and how fast takes the continuity and everything to gel and pass protection and run blocking. But in terms of talent acquisition, I think you need 3 starters, and that's tough. What team has gotten 3 starters on the O-line in the transfer portal? Can we go back and look at that? That doesn't happen, guys. It's tough to
get
that
developmental position from the high school level. Yeah,
it's tough to do that in the portal. So I'm not saying Texas can't do it, but I'm just saying it's going to be, I think, the most challenging talent acquisition experiment for Texas since Sark and Brandon Harris have gotten together. I can't see a tough one. I mean, you guys got anything? I mean, quarterback. Yeah, but quarterback. I ain't gonna say quarterback is easy, but for Sark, that's what he does. So going to get Quinn, that's just kind of that's a high dollar figure. Quinn wanted to come back home. You had a lot of advantages in getting that, and you needed 1.
Yeah,
you need 3 starters pretty much at a position. You haven't needed that in the portal for any position. Right? Maybe he tackled last year.
Yeah, Rod, I haven't said this on a show with you, and I'm doing this halfway to make Bobby Burton snicker, but I'd be looking in the CFL and NFL Europe right now, too.
Yeah.
I would not stop at the college portal.
You can't.
I would go college basketball in this thing, and I would go look everywhere.
Okay, the problem is you can't do that. That's not possible.
Somebody has
to
leave no stone unturned.
A Christmas tree, a present under the Christmas tree that doesn't exist. All right, look, we're going to move forward and talk next about what are the positions outside of offensive line that Texas needs, in our opinion, to address. All 3 of us, we asked ourselves this before we got going here. All 3 of us came up with different answers. Before we get that, I want to remind you guys, we're sponsored by Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, and think you might be due compensation, reach out to Adam and his firm for a free, no strings attached consultation. That's LowyLawFirm.com. 20+ years in the business. Also a big sponsor of the University of Texas Athletics as a whole. Thank you, Adam, very much for your sponsorship of On Texas Football. All right. Gerry, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah.
You picked the defensive line as the next piece. Is that because you believe that you win and lose in the SEC on the line of scrimmage? Why did you pick the defensive line? Because I don't know about sheer numbers. They're not as large probably as the offensive line or sheer need, but you thought reinforcing that defensive line is important?
Well, I think with the loss of Brevard and Shaw over the ball, I think that's significant. Texas loves the young guys. Josiah Sharma, Myron Charles, more of a 3, more in the Alex January mold, right? Texas loves Josiah Sharma. They love their young guys, but you need experienced player over the football because there's so many snaps to go around. You can't ask a young player like Josiah Sharma to go and play 25, 30 snaps next year, even though they really love him. You need experience, size over the football next year. And I think that could be 1 or 2 guys. And then I think there's a disruptor potential need out there too, depending on if anybody else jumps in the portal from Texas.
At edge.
No, even as a 3. I mean, I could see as many as 3 on the D line, probably 2, but we got to see who else goes in the portal. Then at edge, I think there's a need for an edge too that has some experience because look, I mean, Colin Simmons is tremendous. If Brad Spencer turns, I think he's a good piece. I think Lance Jackson's going to have a major jump in year 2. Colton Vosick still hasn't had a fully healthy season at Texas, and he's running out of time. Smith Orogbo, they likes coming off the knee, probably still needs more time physically. But there is still
don't forget about Zena. Don't forget about
Zena. And Zena, but there's still a position, there's still a possibility out there for another pass rusher. I think that's a guy who can really get after the quarterback. So I could see 3 or 4 on the defensive line out of the portal, honestly.
I think, too, Jerry, it depends on any attrition that you might see there that has not been announced at this point. And I think that's you mentioned a couple guys there that might be in that category. Rod, what position did you go with, bud?
I'm going defensive backfield. I had no surprise there. That's close to my heart, close to home for me. But you're just losing so much back there, right? You're losing Michael Taft, who's first team All-SEC caliber player. You're going to lose Jalen Gilbo back there. You're going to lose Malik Muhammad, looks like, too. Malik Muhammad, I know that could be decisions made there, but I think you're going to lose him. Jelani McDonald, not sure. He's got decision to make as well. So that could also affect the secondary. I just think you got a lot of youth back there too, right? Cade Phillips making his move. You got Grayson Littleton, cemented starter, but still he was a true freshman back there. So I just think you need a veteran presence, proven commodity, proven starter at the safety spot, and maybe corner as well. You can go both of those. I definitely think safety is a spot where I think you need a multi-year starter if you can find one, right? I can say that like that's easy to find, but I think Texas had some success, kind of Andrew Makuba being the shining example of guys you can find in the portal that can really come in and be impact players for you. So I think, safety, and I would look at corner too, just because you're not sure right now who's going to take that other spot opposite now Cade Phillips, because with Malik Muhammad potentially moving on, you don't know who's going to take that spot. So I do think give yourself another corner, maybe a guy that also can play nickel. If you can find some position flex, that'd be great. Find a guy like Makuba, keep bringing him up as an example, but remember he played nickel, he had played safety. Dabo said he played any position in secondary. You would love a guy like that can manufacture depth for you, but I would say safety number one, and I'd go after a corner if you can find a proven commodity at the cornerback position too, just to make sure that you give yourself a little bit of insurance with all the youth you got back there, the youth movement in the secondary that's happening, but also with, like I said, guys can be making decisions inside to hit the NFL, and you don't want to be left out in the cold with, not addressing the secondary as an issue. So
I think that you're right, and I think part of it hinges on who goes pro. Manny Muhammad and Jelani McDonald have decisions to make.
Yep.
Okay. Now, you could say they might still need a safety, even though Jonah Williams is likely back. It just depends on the baseball, football thing of whether or not he participates fully in spring ball. Derek Williams obviously returns, but we don't know for sure. There could be a lot of things. The 3 people that I kind of think that they have penciled in for next year in various machinations, for lack of a better term, Grayson Littleton, Cade Phillips, and Xavier Filsami. Those 3, because Filsami, they really liked how he came on late. And then you have a question mark about a guy like Kobe Black that played really well against A&M, right, Rod? But what was his body of work through the season, right? And you wonder, is he a corner or is he a safety, right?
I would love him at safety.
Yeah, but that's my point, really, right? Is I think there's 3 guys outside of McDonald and Muhammad that they can kind of count on right now, and that's Phillips, Littleton, and Phil. But we'll see. But to Rod's point, I think we would all love a lockdown corner if you can get one. But again, ifs, ands, and buts. Those are few and far between. And then a Andrew Makuba-like guy would be a dream come true, just because of the experience you got in the secondary on a high level too, by the way, not just another team, but a high level team coming in. All right. Mine is going to be a little bit different than you guys. I'm going to flip sides of the ball, and I'm not going to pick a single position as much as it is. I'm asking for playmakers. I want a playmaker at wide receiver, somebody that makes off schedule plays. Texas had one receiver that I thought made off-schedule plays, and that was Ryan Wingo. He wasn't consistent in that. Fair. But that's why he made second team all-conference, in my opinion. He did make off-schedule plays. Parker Livingston made a few off-schedule plays, right?
Yeah.
8 balls, 50-50 balls that he won. Emmett Mosley, I think, could have gotten there. Perhaps the catch against Mississippi State may have been the best catch of the year for Texas, to be honest with you. And then, I feel like they need someone that people – it's almost like they need a Zachariah Branch at Georgia, a jet that really can make people miss over short spaces and get open underneath quickly for Arch on 3rd and 3. And we'll see what that happens. But a playmaker, and then also one in the offensive backfield to join, hopefully, Trey Wisner. Wisner hasn't made his decision yet. If he goes pro, Texas, I think, will need 2 running backs.
Wow.
And so, because they'll only have 3 or 4 at that point on scholarship. We'll see, because that position still could be hit by attrition as well. Not only Trey Wisner, but you got to think that Christian Clark has to understand what's his role next year, et cetera. My point on all of this, I think, is I just think Texas needs more firepower on offense. That's the true feel for me. And one of those running backs needs to be a big back that is a 3rd down, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2 runner in the SEC. So anyways, those are my guys. Y'all have any thoughts on the firepower addition, either one of you guys?
I think Jermaine Bishop out of the high school ranks could give you some of that out of the gate.
Okay.
Wide receivers can make a big impact out of high school, right?
Yes.
So I think you could have help on the way there, even if you don't end up going for that in the portal at wideout. I think Texas a wide receiver position, if they feel like a Jermaine, and I don't disagree that if your Jermaine Bishop can provide that, I think even if they think that can be provided, I think even more size at wide receiver in the SEC.
What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I like you said about the running back. I'd like a little more size and physicality. Those running backs, those big backs that Texas had faced. They trust me as a DB. You do not like trying to meet them guys in the alley. The Jade Bars of the world, was it the Mike Washington at Arkansas? Yeah. Man, I would love a guy with some size and physicality. And I'm with you, Bobby. Texas was top 10 in 20-plus yard plays the last 2 years in 2024 and in 2023. One of the most explosive, but they actually led the country in 2024 in explosive plays, most explosive offense in the country. And this year, they were not very explosive. I think a lot of it goes to what Bobby talked about, those guys who are there's certain guys that move the chains. There's certain guys that change the game. You don't have enough game changers on offense. You need play breakers. You need guys that break plays wide open. Ryan Wingo, we saw some of that, but you didn't have enough of that. They got to get back to doing that. And I think, through the portal seems to be the best way for Texas to up the ante there.
All right, good stuff, guys. Thank y'all for this state of the program. I want to mention real quick, a lot of you are looking for Christmas presents right now. Make sure you check out shop.ontexasfootball.com. We've got hats, we've got coffee mugs, we've got coffee, all kinds of knickknacks. If you're interested in joining us, shop.ontexasfootball.com. All right, that's going to do it for State of the Program. We've got the live stream coming up again tonight. We also have some more news and notes a little bit later as well. For Gerry Hamilton and Rod Babers, I'm Bobby Burton. Thanks also to our producer, Matt Hutchison. You guys have a good one. Hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em.